Dr. Carson. Dr. Carson was the director of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. I mean, you all know this man, amen? You know what he's done. You know what he's done for our country, for children. But he and his beautiful bride, Candy, is here. Let's give it up for Miss Candy. God bless you. They've co-authored 4 books together. Dr. Carson is a recipient of the President's Medal of Honor, the highest award given to an American citizen. But I got to tell you more than that Dr. Ben Carson is a man of God. Will you help me in welcoming Michigan's own Dr. Ben Carson?
State of Michigan. You know, we were both from the Detroit area, but we had to go to New Haven, Connecticut to meet each other. But the Lord knew what he was doing. And but I want to talk a little bit about what's about to happen next week. This election, you know, this is not about Democrats or Republicans. You know, in the past, it really didn't matter that much who won, because, you know, we're pretty much all in the same boat. That's no longer the case. Now we're talking about a group of people who believe that this country is of, for, and by the people, and a group of people who think it's of, for, and by the government. And those two things lead to very different places. And that's why this is so vitally important. And you know, there are those who would have you believe that it's about the messenger and not the message. But it is totally about the message. It is about what will happen to our children and our grandchildren and all the people who follow after us if we go down a certain pathway. And if you know some people who say, well, I like the president, but he just irritates me with his tweeting and with all of this stuff, and tell them, are you more concerned about your feelings or your grandchildren? Because that's what the decision is about. And you know, there are so many people who don't appreciate the nation that we live in. And they think it's a horrible place, and they say horrible things about it. Have we made some mistakes? Absolutely. We're inhabited by human beings. And human beings are imperfect. So they do imperfect things. But this is the dream destination for so many people throughout the world. If we were such a horrible place, why would people be forming caravans trying to get in here? It doesn't make any sense, does it? So, and there are those who want to bury our history. Now, you know, any history has good things and bad things. Have you ever read the Bible? You know? I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that's not so cool, you know? The Old Testament gives support and foundation to the New Testament so that you understand why Jesus did what he did in order to save us, you know? And by the same token, we need to understand the history of our country, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that helps us in many ways. Your history is what gives you your identity. And your identity is that thing upon which your beliefs are founded. And if you destroy all that, who are you? And then you become a blank slab, a tabula rasa for someone who can come along and easily tell you things and sway you in a completely different direction. Guess who knew that? Some of you who are older remember the name Nikita Khrushchev.
Yeah.
He said, your grandchildren's children will live under communism and we won't have to fire a shot. And what did he know? He knew what was necessary in order to convert our system. First of all, you have to gain control of the most valuable thing a person has. What is that? Your health. Socialized medicine. Vladimir Lenin said it is the linchpin to socialism. Think about that, and you think about the things that are going on in our society right now. And then you have to increase poverty so that you can increase dependency upon the government. That is absolutely crucial. Now you say, well, how do you make a country as wealthy as ours poor? You increase the debt to unimaginable levels so that you can justify higher and higher taxes so you can transfer the wealth from the people to the government upon which people are dependent. All of this is in the process. We have to be smart enough to recognize what is going on. And then you have to gain control of the educational system so that you can indoctrinate the young people. Teach them a different history altogether of who we are. And then you have to gain control of the media so that you can filter what you feed to the people and you can give it to them in doses and change the way that they think about things. And then you have to remove their ability to defend themselves.
Yeah.
The Second Amendment. You hear people saying all the time, you don't need a high-powered rifle to go duck hunting. You don't need an AK-47 to go deer hunting. Newsflash. The Second Amendment is not about duck hunting or deer hunting. It is about our ability to defend ourselves from a tyrannical government. That's what it's all about. You're not going to do that with a pea shooter. So, and then the other thing that you must do to complete the transition, you must remove God and replace it with government. You want people not to depend on God, but to depend on government. And hence you see them making so much fun of people who are Christians. But we don't have to tolerate that. And you know, it is very important that we speak up. That we speak up for the country that we love. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate being born in this country. My wife and I, we talk about it all the time. We could have been born anywhere. But God was gracious enough to let us be born in this country, where there are so many opportunities for people. Even people who come from, very desperate situations. Have you ever noticed that we have a lot of people who immigrate here from places that aren't doing so well, and then they do very well when they get here? Because they just look around, they say, what? You mean all I have to do is study and work hard? And then there's so many people in our country who don't seem to understand that. And then there is a group who wants to make people think that they are victims. And that somebody else is causing all of their problems. I got news for you. If you think you're a victim, you are one. Okay? But you do not have to be a victim. Doesn't mean that there aren't obstacles that one has to negotiate. You do have to negotiate them. You know, my mother used to tell me when I was growing up, she said, Benjamin, if you walk into an auditorium full of racist, bigoted people, she says, you don't have a problem. They have a problem. She said, because see, when you walk in there, they're all going to cringe and wonder if you're going to sit down next to them, whereas you go sit anywhere you want. So, so it's a problem if you make it a problem. But, you know, we have so many people who are made to feel like victims, and they feel that somebody owes them something. And they feel that they can go rioting and breaking and smashing things and stealing. You know, that has no place in our society. Then you have another group of people who are made to feel guilty. It's your fault. White guilt. And let me tell you something, it's a horrible combination. Black victimhood and white guilt. It results in horrible policies like defund the police. Just crazy stuff, stuff coming out of your mouth. And we have to speak out against it. You know, there's so many people who don't want to speak up. They have the right attitude, they think the right way about our nation, but they just quietly sneak off and cower in the corner and hope no one calls them a racist or some other name. You know, what would have happened to our country if our founders had been like that? If they wouldn't have been willing to put their lives on the line, not for themselves, but for us. What would have happened on D-Day if those young soldiers hadn't been willing to go up on that beach in Normandy and step over the bodies of all of their friends who were dying? Hundreds of people lying there, thousands dead on the beach. Did they turn back? No. They kept going and they overwhelmed the Axis forces. In many cases, knowing that they would never see their loved ones or their homeland again. Why? Not for themselves. They did it for you. They did it for me. They did it for our future. Now we must be willing to work for the future of those coming behind us. It's on us at this time. And you know, I had a lot of people telling me that I was a victim when I was growing up, that the system was against you, that there's no way that you're going to be able to be successful. But you know, I had the best weapon you can have. I had a terrific mother. Yeah. And you know, if anybody could have claimed to be a victim, it was my mother. You know, she came from a huge rural family, desperate poverty. Got married at age 13, trying to escape all that. They moved to Detroit. Years later, she discovered her husband was a bigamist. She had less than a third grade education. But she never accepted the title victim. She always worked very hard. And she became a spy. Now, her cover was domestic, okay? And she would clean houses, one house to the next. But she was really spying on those people because she wanted to know why they were so successful. And she concluded that it was because they didn't watch TV all day and they read a lot of books. And she came home and imposed that on us. And I gotta tell you, we were not happy. And in today's world, we would have called social services. And they would take care of that. But we had to read those books, and first of all, I went from the bottom of the class, and so did my brother, to the top of the class before reading those books. The same students who were calling me dummy before were now saying, Benny, how do you work this problem? And I'd say, sit at my feet, youngster, while I instruct you. But you know, as I read these books, books about explorers and scientists and surgeons and entrepreneurs. And I began to realize that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you is you. It's not somebody else. It's not the society. It's nothing that anybody else can do to you. It's you. And what a difference that makes. And that's the same thing that Donald Trump recognizes. I get so sick of people calling him a racist. They loved him before he started running for president, remember? Then all of a sudden he became a racist. Jesse Jackson gave him an award for all the opportunities that he presented to black people in New York. He moved to Palm Beach. He was on the forefront of integrating the social clubs that were segregated. As president, criminal justice reform, First Step Act, opportunity zones, school choice, HBCU support. I mean, if he's a racist, he's the worst one ever. And like myself, he believes a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's why you had so many people doing so well before this coronavirus hit us. But it still created such a strong economic foundation that it's been able to withstand 6 months of shutdown. And now it's bouncing back, and it's going to be stronger than ever, assuming that we win next week. And I gotta tell you, there are people who are saying how horribly he managed the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus thing. What a bunch of garbage, I mean, shutting down travel from China before anybody else was talking about it, putting together a task force, making more PPE available than anybody could possibly imagine. The man has done an incredible job. And quite frankly, if it were his predecessor, they'd be saying he's a genius, okay? But the fact of the matter is, this too will pass. This is not going to be with us forever. And we don't need to be basing everything on this. We need to be basing things on what was going on and what makes this a land of opportunity for everybody who comes here. That's what it's about. And every one of us has a sphere of influence. There are people you can talk to. They always say you're not supposed to talk to people about religion or politics. Wrong. That's exactly what you're supposed to be talking. Talk to your family on Thanksgiving, on any other time you talk to your family, you talk to your neighbors, you talk to your co-workers about the things that are important to you, not about sports and entertainment. I mean, that's okay, but really, is that what life is all about? Doesn't matter that much if you can sink a basketball. I was listening to one of the news programs this morning, and LeBron James was saying something about, would you ask Ben Carson to play basketball? Well, I wouldn't ask him to do neurosurgery. Use that sphere of influence. Don't cower in the corner. We have to be every bit as bold as the other side in proclaiming what we believe, because our young people are listening and they need to hear the other side of the argument, or they will just swallow it hook, line, and sinker. And the next time you're singing our wonderful Star Spangled Banner, first of all, stand when you sing the Star Spangled Banner. Because do you realize when the Star Spangled Banner was written by Francis Scott Key, the British were bombarding Fort McHenry, and they were trying to knock our flag down. And it was our troops who stood there. They held that flag up. They would not let that flag go down because of what it stood for. And it still stands for freedom for our people. That is much more important than anything else. This is our country. Let me just end by saying this. When you are singing that Star Spangled Banner, you get to the end of that first stanza. And it says, land of the free and home of the brave. Just remember, you cannot be free if you're not brave. God bless America.
Let's give it up for Dr. Ben Carson! Hey. You made me